Welcome in, everybody. This is the Sports Multiverse. I'm your host, Mr. Sim, and today is the first look into recreating our own NCAA football universe. So let's jump right in. We are starting everything off in 1989. The conferences are the same as today. We got a playoff like today, but we will have 8 teams. Uh, how it's set up is each of the Power Five conference champions will have an automatic bid into the playoffs, uh, leaving 3 at-large bids to fill. The next thing here is we don't have any real world awards because over here, these guys don't exist. So as we watch more of our players, we'll rename the awards as such. Now that we got some of the background stuff out of the way, let's take a look at our day zero top programs. None of this should really look out of place. Again, we're using Draft Day Sports 2023, so the game is based on the current season. So, first thing we're going to look at is the team's prestige levels and who is our most prestigious teams. So, starting at the top, we see Alabama sitting all alone to lead off our list with a 93 prestige. Uh, but will Alabama dominate in our world as they do in real life? I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Right behind Alabama, we got Ohio State, Georgia, and Oklahoma, all above a 90 prestige, with LSU, Notre Dame, and Clemson rounding out the 90 club. These teams will probably have the best players, probably have the best coaches, probably will be in our playoff, and probably be our national champion. Next, we got the Michigan Wolverines and the Baylor Bears. They have carved out a spot slightly better than the rest, but not quite in that top echelon of team just yet. But should still be really good teams, maybe even top 10 after the SEC beats up on each other. Our next teams, 85 to 82 prestige. All these teams have a chance to win their conference, but most likely their road to the playoff will be through an at-large bid. So the next thing we're going to look at is the average player overalls. Our top 3 teams are still our top 3 teams, but Alabama and Ohio State slightly separates themselves uh, with the best talent in the nation, with Georgia not too far behind. Oklahoma is where I would expect them to be, but the first surprise for me in looking at the league was seeing Michigan, Baylor, Cincinnati, and Michigan State rated with a higher average overall than our 90 prestige teams, Clemson, LSU, and Notre Dame. Not by much, but still rated higher. Then we see after Oregon, we see a slight drop off in talent. So this will be the last thing we look at today. This screen ranks the schools that recruited the best players of the incoming recruiting class by position group. Everyone will not be a freshman this year, um, but as the first season, every player is a new incoming recruit. So this is looking at everyone signed uh, in the game this year, and then next year it'll just be the incoming recruiting class. But looking at this graphic, we do have a trend at the top, and it's a lot of red. Georgia, OSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, all of our above 90 prestige teams. These teams grab multiple top 3 spots in offense and defense. We'll look at Georgia. They got the number 1 QB group in the nation and the number 1 wide receiver group in the nation. That's probably going to equal a lot of points. Um, Also, they're ranked top 10 in every position group except tight end. Um, Ohio State. They have the best defensive linemen in the nation, number two ranked linebackers, offensive line, and running backs. Also ranked top 10 in all positions but tight end. Next is Alabama, number one in O linemen and safeties. That seems pretty on brand with their real world team. The defensive line is ranked number three, and the cornerbacks is the only position that Alabama is not ranked in top 10 in the nation. Uh, then we got Oklahoma, who has the number one running back group, second tight ends, third ranked cornerbacks. But OU is lacking top 10 rankings in offensive line, linebacker, and safety. Uh, Florida State was able to grab the third ranked tight end group in the nation. Mississippi State brought in the third ranked running backs in the nation. We got Utah up there with the number two quarterback class. Then we got Cincinnati. I think we all expect Cincinnati to be a relatively strong group of five team, but they look like just a really good team, period. They got the number one linebacker group in the nation, top three in quarterbacks and offensive linemen. They got a top 10 ranking in running backs, tight ends. Um, and on paper, I would guess they would have a good shot at getting one of those at large bids. Let's take a look at Michigan, who got two positions ranked in the top three, receiver and safety, but then they still got top 10 rankings in the offensive line and defensive line and cornerback. The green teams on this graphic are pretty spread out, but we got Baylor and Oregon grabbing a few top 10 spots. Even Michigan State with a top three wide receiver group in the nation and the number one cornerback group in the nation. Notre Dame should have a pretty good team, but they don't have a top 10 offensive line. We'll see how those position players are going to be able to get off and if they're going to be able to improve that line. But on defense, they were able to get top five ranking linebackers and cornerbacks. Towards the middle, it's a lot of orange. That's Clemson, OK State. Clemson was able to get a ranking as high as fourth in their with their tight end groups and their defensive line. But OK State has the number two safety group in the nation. And then finally, we'll look at LSU. They're all over the board. They got the number one tight end group in the nation, but then they number 10 in quarterbacks, offensive line, and linebackers. So this is where we're going to leave things for now. I'm sure anything can happen in a simulation, but it's looking like Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia are jumping out as our early championship favorites. Again, nothing really out of place. But of course, this is all on paper. We'll see how it plays out. But again, that's where we're going to leave it, guys. Thank y'all for checking it out. If you have any ideas of anyone that may be winning a championship outside of those three, or if you want to shout out your favorite team or who you're going to be rooting for this season, uh, leave it down below. Uh, Thank you again for checking everything out. If you're here at this point, leave a like on the way out, guys. Appreciate it. Hit all the channel buttons, but check us out on the next one.